All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome back for another deep dive. Today, we're going to be tackling something
Okay.
that I think a lot of people think they have a good handle on,
Mm-hmm.
boundaries.
Yeah.
Um, and, Finlay, you hear this word boundaries all the time.
Right.
But how many of us are really putting it into practice
Yeah, are we?
in a way that actually
Yeah.
benefits our relationships?
Right.
So
Yep.
we're going to be taking excerpts from a piece called
Okay.
Boundaries That Protect and Strengthen Love.
Interesting.
And this is going to be an interesting one for me because I'll be honest, I
Yeah.
kind of subscribe to the idea that you just got to be open and loving
Right.
and accepting all the time.
Sure.
But maybe I've been wrong.
Yeah.
So let's find out.
It's funny you should say that because the source actually points out that exact misconception right off the bat.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like this idea that boundaries are these walls
Right.
that shut people out. But what it argues is that boundaries actually create...
Okay. These windows
That's host.
into what each person needs.
Oh, I see.
And that kind of transparency, it says, is the bedrock of any solid relationship.
So instead of it being like this closed off thing,
Right.
it's more like
It's about clarity.
showing the other person
Exactly.
what you need.
Yeah, and respecting each other's needs
Yeah.
in order for that love to truly flourish.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because if you don't know what the other person needs,
Right.
how can you really show
Right.
up for them in a way
Can
that's actually going to be beneficial
You end up
to the relationship?
stepping on each other's toes.
Right.
And then
Yeah.
resentment builds.
Exactly. So how do we even
Do that.
start to...
Well,
know?
the source kind of breaks it down
Okay.
into three key elements.
Okay.
Setting expectations,
Hmm.
communicating limits,
Okay.
and then respecting individuality.
Okay. So setting expectations, that one seems
Right.
pretty straightforward, right?
Yeah. It sounds simple enough. Just making sure you're on the same page.
But it's amazing how many conflicts
Yeah.
arise from not doing that.
Okay, so give me an example.
Well, the source uses this
Mhm.
really great example of a couple.
Okay.
And they had completely different ideas
Oh.
about how often
Oh.
they should be connecting during the day.
Okay.
One person wanted constant communication.
Oh, yeah.
The other one needed space.
Oh, I've been there.
And without that upfront expectation,
Right.
they just ended up feeling neglected and smothered.
Oh, yeah. I
It
completely understand.
happens all the
So
time.
just having that conversation
Exactly. Just being upfront
ahead of time.
saves so much heartache.
Okay, what about communicating limits? That one feels a little trickier
It can be.
because you don't want to hurt the other person's feelings.
Exactly. And that's where I think that fear of conflict comes in.
Right.
But what if we reframe it
Okay.
as protecting the relationship
Yeah.
by setting those limits?
How-
Well, so let's go back to the couple in the story.
Okay.
One partner really needed quiet time to recharge.
Yep.
The other one was energized by being social.
Extrovert, introvert.
Exactly. So by setting a boundary, hey, I love hanging out,
Mm-hmm.
but I also need an hour each evening
Mm-hmm.
to unwind alone.
Okay.
They actually avoided resentment building up,
Right.
and they made their time together even more meaningful.
Oh, that's a really good point.
Right.
Because it's like you're not taking it personally
Exactly.
when they need that space.
It's not about you.
Yeah.
It's about them recharging so that they can
Right. And then they can come back
be fully present.
and be more engaged.
Exactly.
Okay. So the last one, respecting individuality.
This is a big one.
This one feels a little more
Yeah,
philosophical.
It is philosophical,
Yeah.
but I think it's also incredibly practical
Oh.
because it's acknowledging
Mm.
that even in the closest relationships...
We are still two separate people
Yes.
with our own unique needs and desires.
Yeah. And you don't want to lose yourself.
Exactly.
stuff.
You can't become one homogeneous blob.
Right.
You have to retain
Yeah.
your sense of self.
What was the example they gave in the source material?
Well, even something as simple as food preferences.
Okay.
This couple,
Hmm.
they had different tastes.
Mm-hmm.
So they set a boundary.
Right.
Hey, I'm happy to try your new whatever fusion restaurant this weekend,
Right.
but next time,
Mm-hmm.
can we go to my favorite Italian place?
Okay, so it's about compromise
Exactly.
and respecting those differences.
Yes.
So with this couple in the story, did setting these boundaries actually bring them closer?
What's so interesting is the source really emphasizes that. At
Mhm.
first,
Yeah.
it was a little rocky.
Because they weren't used to it.
They had to kind of break old patterns
Right.
and learn how to communicate honestly.
It's like learning a new skill. Right.
But the more they honored each other's boundaries,
Mhm.
the deeper their understanding and intimacy became.
Interesting.
They stopped seeing boundaries as limitations,
Yeah.
and they started seeing them as a roadmap to stronger connection.
So it actually opened them up to more love.
Yes.
Wow. I'm like completely reevaluating everything I thought I knew about boundaries.
It's a real paradigm shift.
Yeah, and it's making me think about all the relationships in my life, not just romantic ones,
Right.
you know?
Absolutely.
Friendships, family members, colleagues.
All of it.
Like there's so many areas
Yeah.
where this could be beneficial.
It's really about honoring yourself and honoring the other person.
So, to wrap things up, this deep dive has definitely opened my eyes to the power of boundaries. It's not about limiting love. It's about protecting it and nurturing it.
And you know, the source leaves us with this really interesting question.
Oh, yeah. What is it?
It asks, what one boundary could you set in your own life,
Ooh.
starting today, that would lead to a healthier, happier relationship?
Ooh, that's a good one. I'm going to have to think about that.
Yeah, me too.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. It's been quite a journey into the world of boundaries.
It has.
And I hope you learned as much as I did. Until next time.